Hello everyone. So I made a video around a year back on org agenda, and of course now I have plenty of videos on org mode. But I also made one video about how to recursively add all the org files from a specific directory. Now the thing is that I use, of course, org mode, and when you're using org mode, you may want to just limit your agenda files to maybe few files, and I do have few files, by the way, because those are my core files. Now let me show you. So in my org agenda, I have like some core files that I want to be available for my agenda, basically all the to-do items, or maybe something that is really important for me, like for my task tracking. So I have basically this variable called org agenda core files. And if you look here, I basically have something called as leads.org. Basically, I keep track of all my leads. Then I of course have this file called a journal. So I do try to write something regularly. And at the same time, whenever I capture something, I use this file called inbox.org. Basically, if I'm, let us say, somewhere in Emacs, and I remember something, or there is a new item that I need to do, or some task, I of course don't really go to the file. I basically just press Control C, and then of course I store it, and it goes to inbox.org. And from that file, I refile it to the respective file. Then I have recurring.org, which is basically for tasks that I need to do, as the name suggests, regularly. I don't really use this file a lot. I'll probably archive it completely. Then I have something called as waiting for .org. Again, I don't really use that file a lot. Basically, when I'm doing my weekly review of my inbox.org, I either move it to the actual, or refile the task to the actual file, my main project file, or I just move it to waiting. Like waiting means that I will do something about these things sometime in future. And then I have this domains.org, which I don't really use a lot, because I used to, at one point, I had like 70 plus, maybe 100 domains. Now I don't really have 100 domains, but I still have some domains that I want to keep track of. So I use this file. Then I have this file called goals.org. And usually in my goals.org, I keep track of all my short-term, long-term, and medium-term goals, like things that I want to do in 6 months, things that I want to do in 2 years, things that I want to do in maybe 5 years, something like that. Then I have my main file, which is spx.org, where I keep track of all of my main activities, tasks, and this is my main file. Then again, I have like bills.org, very important for me. And because I also use org mode to write blog, I have basically a couple of my websites blog folders here, basically the org files. Of course, from these folders, I publish the HTML to the respective project directories. But apart from this, what I have done also, I have this directory called myfiles.org, or not .org. In fact, the whole directory, my files, and everything that I do is basically in this directory, like all my files, all my repositories, and I do have like very specific org files. For example, if I'm working for a client and I need to store meeting minutes, I have like their folder, respective folder in their client, in basically a client directory. So basically I do have, or basically if I'm writing a book, I have like subfolders or folders, directories. So I basically want that everything in my files directory, like when I say everything, I mean all the org files, I want it to be included in my agenda. Because if I'm, let us say, taking some meeting minutes and I want to take some action by a date, I of course use to do. Basically, I create a task and then I associate it with a date, and I want that particular task to appear in my agenda. So I can do that because I have this variable called directory files, directory -files -recursively. So basically, and of course, I'm just focusing on the org files. That is it. So everything in this directory, or like all the org files, are stored in this org agenda other files, and then I'm basically appending the org agenda core files with org agenda other files, and that is how I'm recursively including all the org files in a specific directory to my agenda files. And this has been working quite nicely for me for the last 1+ years. I think it has been more than 1 year since I started doing it, and I'm quite happy with it. I also made a video on the same topic, basically the same thing, but I just want to give you my year plus review of how it is going. And do give it a try, and you might have maybe a slightly different approach to it. I mean, for me, the way I do the because you can also do something like this, like let us say you have a blog like ravi.pro/blog. So this will work only for that level. It won't really go deep into the directories, because all my blogs are in ravi.pro/blog folder, like all the org files, but it won't really go like further into the directories or subdirectories and directories within directories. But if you do something like directory-files-recursively, then it will go basically to any level. And I think it works, because if you look at this variable, it will show you all the files that are included in this, and it will of course append it with my core files. And that is it. Yeah, I know, very simple yet effective way to maintain your org agenda, especially if you're doing something recursively. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new. Thank you very much. Bye bye.